Tonight, we're going to be speaking about neurographic painting. And what the heck is neurographic painting with such a fancy name, right? Well, neurographic just means that we're activating the senses within our brain. We're actually going to bring together the right and the left hemispheres of the brain and get a lot of relaxation out of it at the same time. So let me show you a piece that is a classic neurographic piece. And so this is where it's just the lines are undulating. There are no sharp corners. Everything's rounded. And actually, when you look up close here, these look like the synapses or the parts of the brain that connect to one another, where the electric pulses go across and say, hey, that's how your brain operates. So this is a very relaxing method of doodling or painting that I find to be very, very satisfying. Now, here are some more. That this one is very abstracted, right? And it's super, super easy. I can't wait to show you how to make one of these. But you can also draw something. Oh, I see. There's a question. Let's see. How long does it take you to make those? Excellent question. This one took me about an hour. Took me about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. But that's because I was using a trick, and I'm going to show you the trick that, well, I'll just tell you right now. The trick is that for the watercolor, instead of using watercolor out of a tube or a pan, I was using it out of a marker. So you see this is a watercolor marker, and you're going to be shocked how fast it is to do these with the watercolor markers. The longest time that it takes is the meditation of rounding all the little corners. But I'll show you how to do that. That's what takes the longest. The coloring is quick. Then you can draw an image, and then I just drew a bunch of squiggly lines through the image. And then at the intersection of each one of the lines, we're rounding everything off. So where the lines intersect, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 spots where you have a sharp corner, right? Like that. What we're doing is we are taking a marker and we're going in and we're rounding those off. So everything inside here should be round and curvy, and it just feels so good, and it's amazing what it does for your brain. So first I drew um, the dragonfly. Oh, for you paint said I've never tried watercolor. Oh, you know what is so funny? And for you paint says I use acrylic. I love acrylic, and I've used acrylic for 15, 20 years. And I hated watercolor in the beginning, and now I'm like so into watercolor. So it's, we progress, we learn, right? That's why you're here, I assume. So, so what I did was I drew the dragonfly first, and then I drew all the squiggly lines, and then everywhere where a line touched, I rounded those out. So it's just, there's something about it that's so pleasing to your brain. And I don't know what it is, but it's super pleasing. And then, so you don't have to color everything. You can leave it like this and just color in whatever your subject is, and leave it at that. I don't know though. I like color. So here's another one that I did, which was it's jellyfish. And so besides just rounding everywhere where the lines meet, you can also draw in little designs. So here, because of course this is supposed to be under the ocean, and I put shimmery paint. Do you see watercolor comes in shimmer for you paints? So I'll be showing you those. But here we've got some shimmer paint on there. And then down here, I did not put the shimmer paint. I put regular watercolors, and then I drew in some bubbles just for the fun of it, right? And so those are some examples. Now, here is one that I did on handmade paper. These are all done on watercolor paper. Here's one that I did on handmade paper. Now, I didn't hand make the paper. I bought the handmade paper. And but it's same concept. Remember, you don't have to color the whole thing, right? I don't have to put paint everywhere. Oh, and then I went in and I just did a few extra designs. And then I also highlighted, you see the gold right there and the gold right there. So you can do that. You can do that highlighting either with more watercolor, which is what I did, or you can even use markers. So I have markers like these. My favorite for making those kind of designs are these Uniball. Right, these Unival broad tips, so they're 1 millimeter tip, and these, oh my gosh, they make such beautiful marks after your watercolors are dry. And I'll be showing you that later, but you want to make sure your watercolors are dry before you do that. Now, did I put this one up yet? I think this one is live right now on Whatnot, if you're interested in taking a look at that, and it's available to be purchased right now. What did I call it? I call it Neurophase. It may not be up there. I don't know. I took lots of pictures. Some I got up and some I didn't get up, but I called it Neurophase. And I used a fluorescent, you see that yellow, bright yellow? That's a fluorescent watercolor. Yes, there are not only shimmers, but there are also fluorescents in watercolors, which are so cool. This is the set of golds that I use. There's a whole range of gold. This is the Kuretake Gansai Tambi. And when I finish with my workshops, I add the links to these art supplies that I don't have available on my Whatnot shop. I put links in the YouTube video to these kind of items that I just don't sell. On Whatnot, I sell my finished artwork, and I have a few other art supplies that are like custom custom watercolor sets that I will prepare for you and that kind of thing. Hey, Mark V, did you receive yet you might not have gotten it yet, the little custom set that I made, and I put your core ultramarine blue watercolor in there. You did. All right. All right. Isn't it cute? It is so stinking cute. I was like, oh my gosh, those little clear containers. I'm in love. But this one, again, Kuretake Gansai Tambi, it's what they call the starry colors, very highly pigmented, and that's exactly what I used here when I put the gold in here and the gold up here. So that's a good set, and we may or may not use it because I have a whole other set here. This is a custom. I bought it as an empty palette, and inside here, I have put Sleepy Cooks on YouTube said, "Are you an artist?" Yes, I'm an artist. As a matter of fact, this painting and this painting behind me are some of my my artworks. But this was an empty palette, and then I bought individual. Actually, a dear friend of mine gave me this set of shimmer watercolors, and the rest of these were handmade by an artist in Texas for me, of shimmer watercolors. Let me show you. Ooh, you see that? Amazing. So I like to use these for these kind of whimsical artworks. Let me see, what else am I going to show you before we get up, because we're going to go over top of the table in just a minute, and I'm going to actually show you how we do this. But let me show you also, sometimes if you want to take your colors and instead of them being very dark or very dense watercolors, you may want them, like, you see how dark these colors are? They're very intense, right? So if you want the colors to be a little more pastel instead of intense, what you can do is put something with your watercolor paints called gouache. So this is the one I like to use, is the Pebeo Studio Gouache. This is usually how you get it, in a small tube like this, but this small tube actually came out of a gouache set from Pebeo. So here's a whole set of colors. and this white was inside here. But you'll notice it's the same size as all the other colors. And if you've been an artist for a while, you know you normally want a much larger white for color mixing, right? And a much larger yellow. So what I've done is I sparingly use this little one, and most of the time I use this big one. So yes, it's 100 milliliters of white gouache. Now you see how the tube, instead of being a metal tube, it's a plastic tube. And I like that because what I find is that the binder can separate. And so I'm constantly doing this, massaging it. That's the nice thing about having your paint in a plastic tube like this, is that you can massage it. There we go. Thank you for the hearts over on YouTube. I appreciate it. Please remember to press the like button, the thumbs up. Thank you. So and we're going to do this tonight. We're going to add some of this gouache so that we can get a pastel color. I want to show you how you do that. And let's see, the markers that I showed you a moment ago, these are the Colorex markers from Pebeo. There are other brands. As a matter of fact, I have one here. This is a Posca brush marker. This one is a Tombow brush marker. All three of these are water-based. This is watercolor, this is watercolor, this one is acrylic. But it's still water-based. So when you first put it down, you can hit it with water and get the effect that I showed you right here in this one. And then here's another one. This is by Karen, the company Karen, and it's called a deco brush marker. But all of these will deposit paints quickly and easily onto your paper, and then you can just hit it real quick with a brush, and that will help spread the color. And I like when the colors give you this diffused look. Do you see that, where it's kind of white in the middle? So that was where I didn't put any paint in the middle. I just used the brush and encouraged the paint to run a little bit. And so that's how I got that sort of diffused effect. But you can do that with any of these markers that are water-based, not the alcohol-based markers, okay? Because there are a lot of markers on the market and you go, oh my gosh, okay, I'll grab those. You have to look at the label. Is it water-based? Meaning if it says acrylic, that will also be water-based, or it may say watercolor, or it may say alcohol. If it's an alcohol-based marker, that does not work for the technique that I'm going to show you, although alcohol-based markers can work for this kind of design. So if you have alcohol markers, give them a try. It's just you won't be able to use water to have them diffuse the way that I'm going to show you. Now, a lot of these markers, you use them and then you throw them away. So when all the paint is used up in here, bloop, this goes in the garbage. And then, oh, I see Mark V said, I can't wait to use it. The little watercolor that he got from me. So these markers from Pebeo are refillable. So not all of these markers are refillable. Like these Posca markers, not refillable. They're acrylic paint. This is watercolor paint. It's a uh, dye-based watercolor, which means that the paint itself is not very light fast. And that's important to know, that I can sell this piece of artwork, but in maybe 3, 4, 5 years, it may start to fade because it's dye-based ink, not pigment-based ink. Now let me show you pigment-based ink. For instance, this core watercolor in the tube right here, this is pigment-based ink. If you look on the back of this, it says, I think I've told you all about pigment codes before. So that's industry standard codes for what these different pigments are. And so right on the back of this tube, it says PR122. So the P stands for pigment, R stands for red, and 122 is the specific pigment itself. So this is a pigment-based paint, which means that it's going to likely have much more light fastness. Now it says here, I'm looking light fastness, it says on here, right here it says LF excellent. Excellent means that the color will stay stable 100 years if it's in, in the right conditions. You can't put it directly in the sunlight, but under the right conditions, this color is a pigment, not a dye, and it will stay brilliant for 100 years. Isn't that cool? I love that. So these markers, though, are dye based. These with the Posca, which is an acrylic, my understanding is that these are pigment based, but that I don't see a pigment number on the barrel. So you would have to check with the company. Now this one, Tombow, I'm going to show you right on. Can you see right there? It says water based. So I know that this is not an alcohol marker. This is a watercolor marker. And this one likely is also dye based because it's a lot easier to get dye based to come out of these small tips like this. Um, it's just a lot easier for them to manufacture those. So this one, like I was saying, is refillable. And the end of it, can you see that right there? Yes. So there's a little hole right here. And there's actually when you have the bottle, so these have a wick on the inside of them. And then Pebeo has the matching bottles to go with. So let me show you the one here, the magenta. So this is the magenta, and this is the magenta bottle. On the top, it has a number. This says number 11. On the top of the bottle, it says number 11. So you can match them up, right? And then you can actually refill. I'm going to show you. Do you see how the tip of that, right? It's narrows at the tip. So I can take this color into this marker and shove. I'm going to hold this pen firmly, and then I'm going to shove this top into there. You want it to click into place. You're going to feel it kind of go click. And then I'm going to slowly push on here. You don't want to do it too fast, because if you do it too fast, what'll happen is it'll burp back at you and you'll get pigment everywhere, right? So this one is almost completely in. Yes. Lovely. Now it's empty. And what I also do with this, there's a tiny bit of, you're going to still have a tiny bit left inside the back end. So I just take some water and I put the back end in there and swirl it around a little bit. And then just dry it with a paper towel. And then I have refilled my marker. Now I believe it takes about 3 dropper fulls to refill the whole marker. But I can feel right now that it feels a little heavy on the heavy side, which tells me, okay, I probably have plenty in there. But isn't that cool that you can just refill it? If you don't remember how to, I have a short on YouTube on how to refill the markers from here. Now, I also want you to know, though, that if you find an older bottle, this bottle has the ring inside that tells you the number and the color. This bottle, if you'll notice, does not have the ring. This is an older bottle. The color is still the same and it's beautiful, but I'm going to show you the tip of the dropper. See how the tip of the dropper is round and not pointed? This will not refill. It won't refill these refillable markers. You have to have the newer bottle that has the narrow tip to the dropper in order to refill them. Okay. But that way you don't end up with having to just throw this away when you're done with it. You can just refill it. These are fantastic. Love them. And I'm going to show you here that they come like this. You see that? So it says Pebeo Colorex. These are empty markers. And what does that mean? That means you can be a mad scientist and mix colors together and create your own custom colors that you then fill these empty markers with. And on the side of the marker here, actually this part of the marker is clear in the front. So once you've filled it, you'll be able to see the color that's in there. But what I do is I just take a marker. So let me find this one. This is the violet or the purple. I filled this one with purple because I didn't have a purple marker like this. So I filled it with the purple and then I used like a Sharpie and I wrote on here violet and 16. So that's the color name and the color number. So I know that this marker has this one in it, the violet. And that, because I didn't have one that was like this with the violet, I was able to create one with an empty. So the empties are fantastic. I just love them. Oh, especially that aspect that you can customize them if you want to as well. Okay, I'm going to set those aside. The just as with any marker, the markers have uh, a tip, right? Like especially the brush markers, they have the tip. And so if the tip gets bad for some reason, you need to be able to replace it. So there is a little kit. This is a little grabber. So you can grab the tip and pull it out. Now notice here that it's pointy on this end and pointy on this end. So the first thing I would say to try is pull it out, flip it over and put it back in and see if that works. If it works, awesome. Just keep painting. If it doesn't work, if there's something damaged on and it won't soak up because they're felt. So if it won't soak up the color, just pull it out and replace it with one of these. Okay. So it's helpful when you buy the markers to also buy a set of tips just in case. You'll never know. I don't like to be in the middle of painting and then be like, and you don't want to have to run to the art store and get another one right away, right? Oh, what you're going to notice on the top of these, this is the one that I custom filled. Do you see the 0 right there? So it just says 0 on the top. That's why they give you a little window here to kind of give you an idea of what the heck's in there, right? Okay, let me make sure the tops are on these so they're not going anywhere, right? Yee. And put those out of the way so I don't spill anything. No spilling. This is probably my favorite color right here, the turquoise. Yee. Yeah, I love the turquoise. Okay, these are my two favorite colors, the turquoise and the uh, fluorescent pink. Those are my favorite colors. So we're going to have to use those colors tonight because they are my favorite. Oh, sure. Okay, another thing that you can use to apply paint, now we're going to talk about the lines. So before I show you these, let me show you the kind of markers that I use to make my lines. And you know what? Your lines don't have to be black. Your lines can be any color you want, okay? But I'm going to show you the pens that I use for creating the black lines on these. So for instance, the dragonfly right here. The dragonfly, I used a Sharpie. So if push comes to shove, most people have a Sharpie at home. And so don't feel like oh, thank you, Manos. Manos has to leave over on YouTube, but said, bye, keep it up. Thank you. I appreciate that. So just about everybody has a Sharpie, a black Sharpie in their house or in their art studio. So this one was done with a black Sharpie. Easy peasy. And so don't feel like you have to have any fancy equipment. You don't. You can just have this and a little set of watercolor. That's it. The next thing that you can use is these permanent. And now I will tell you, this particular type of Sharpie is not considered archival. That means that what happens to the black over time is that the black will turn brown, which is not a big deal, right? If it turns brown, it turns brown. Don't worry about it. Um, so it's not considered archival. It's considered permanent, but it's not archival from an artist standpoint. But these Sakura Micron pens are archival permanent black. Well, in this case, black. They also come in colors. Like, for instance, here's a pink one. You can tell by the bottom of them what color they are. So they come in sets with various colors, as well as your standard black set. So this one on the top, it tells you what size it is because the nibs come in different widths. So for doing newer graphic, I like to use this one, which is the size graphic, they call it, or size 1. It should say 1 right there. So, but there are also smaller ones. So this is a micron 0.5 right here. It's just smaller, thinner. So it just depends on what your aesthetic is, which one you want to grab, what size you want to grab. Now, another just a common pen, but it's not so common, is the Uniball Signo. So the Uniball Signo Broad. And that's the same company that made this gold one that I showed you earlier, Uniball. And this is also a permanent ink. So it's a gel ink. It's going to take a little bit longer to dry. Then this one's dry almost immediately, and the Sharpie is dry almost immediately. This one takes a little bit longer as a gel pen, and it's a thin line. So you can see it's just a roller ball, but it works perfectly. So if you want to just use a regular pen, hey, you could use a blue ballpoint pen, a black ballpoint pen. They're just not archival. Is this one archival? I don't know. The interesting thing is this one, which is the Sakura Pigma, says right on it. Let me do this so you can read it. Says right there, archival ink. So you know that it's made for artists. This one, which is the Uniball Signo, I don't think it says that on it. No, it says waterproof, which you need, but it doesn't say that it's archival. Now, acrylic paints are archival for the most part. And so you can use an acrylic paint marker. So this is Pebio's acrylic paint marker. Yes, they did give it to me. Thank you, Pebio. They gave me a set of these, as well as they gave me these. Thank you, Pebio. And so the acrylic marker here, um, you'll notice that acrylic markers come with different tips. So this was the Posca acrylic, and you see it's a brush tip, right? This one is what's called a bullet tip. So you see the bullet tip right there. And this one, what I like about the Pebeo markers, acrylic markers, they're not refillable. Okay, these are the acrylic ones. They're not refillable, but there's a spare tip. When you buy the pen, it comes with a spare tip. If it's a bullet tip, it's reversible. So just like the watercolor markers, the Colorex markers, these acrylic markers, there's a bullet on each end. So the first thing you try is pulling it out and flipping it. And if that doesn't work, you have a spare right in the lid, which is amazing. I don't know any other brand that does that, but they come, this is the 1.2 millimeter. And then this is the detail one, which is 0.7, says on the end, millimeter. Oh, I need to get some of those. Yes. So for you paints, if you haven't been here before, I'm going to show you real quick, flash it up here, and you might want to get a screenshot of that. But you can go to either my website or you can go to the YouTube video tomorrow. It'll have the links in the YouTube video under the live tab. It'll have, thank you. It'll have the links to the supplies that we're using tonight. And so that is always, I think, very helpful because you can just go down in the description of the video on YouTube and say, what was that again? And it'll be right there. You can click on it and go find it. All right. So this one has a detail tip. And this detail tip is actually, ooh, thanks for the hearts. I appreciate it. The detail tip is nylon. So where this one right here, that's the 1.2 bullet tip, is felt. This one right here is nylon detail. So it's more like a pen, but you're using acrylic paint. These are awesome. Love these. I've used them for years because they've been out for a long time, but a lot of people don't know about them. Now, besides the 1.2 and the 0.7 detail, there's also, let me find one over here. I have a bunch of them in front of me. I bought off of Whatnot these incredible, you see these incredible handmade um, ceramic jars. Oh, they're so nice. And so that's where, see, that's where I keep my selection of pens. So here, this one has, can you see again, the double tip like that? So this one is a bullet tip, but it's a 4. There's a number 4 right there. It's a 4 millimeter. And then this one is a chisel. So it still has a 4, but it has a little chisel to it. So I like the chisel tip for covering a large, chisel tips are great because you can get different size lines with your chisel tips so that they're very versatile in the type of lines they can give you. But there is the chisel tip right there. And just so you know that there are different tips to them, which is why I have little jars separating them on my table. Oh, and I use them a lot. I use and so which one? Let me see. This one, this one right here. I use the acrylic marker to make the black lines. And once they're dry, the acrylic markers are permanent. So it's fabulous and it's archival. Even more fabulous, right? So then this is, if you prefer the feel of a brush in your hands, and this is the Posca, which is an acrylic brush marker. You might want to use one of those, but this is one of my favorite because I love the feel of a brush type pen. And so this is Sennelier, and you can see it says it's an ink brush. This is the Sennelier ink brush. There's paint inside here. And the nice thing is because it's Sennelier, Sennelier, Sennelier makes professional artist grade paints. So this is professional grade ink. Let me see what it says on here. Watercolor finish, transparency and color intensity, blendable, water soluble, permanent when dry, with pigment based ink. Okay, there's that term. It's not dye based ink, it's pigment based ink, which means it's archival. And that's another reason why I love these ink brushes. And they come in different colors. Let me see, where's another one here? So this is a black one. This is a brown one. I actually have a couple of sets that are waiting for me to do a review on YouTube for you because I love these. I love them. You can make your own brushes like this. Let me see, by just using an empty water brush. I'm looking to see if I have an empty water brush, which I know I do, but I'm just not putting my hand on it. Come on, water brushes. Yes. So this is just an empty water brush, and I put my own um, acrylic ink in there. And so you can make your own water brushes like that. And what else do I have here? This is Japanese. So this one was Sennelier, it's French. This is a Japanese version by Pentel. But again, it's a brush like that. And it's a permanent ink. So permanent when dry. These are terrific. So if you ever see those and you're curious about them, I'm going to show you how I use them tonight. So maybe you'll want to pick one up sometime along the line. If you see somebody selling one on Whatnot, or you're in an art store and you go, oh, that's right, Tristina talked about those. Let me try one. Now, another way that you can apply paint is you can use a fine liner. So when you're creating, I use Pentel all the time. Yeah, Mark V says over on Whatnot. Absolutely. I adore the Pentel stuff. The Pentel, I don't have my pocket Pentel pen in here because it's in the other room. I've been using it a lot for World Watercolor Month paintings. And yeah, so I didn't bring it in here, but that's probably my most favorite sort of pocket pen is the Pentel pocket pen brush. Okay, so this is what's called a fine liner, fine line applicator. Yeet. So it's different than a brush because it has a needle point. Do you see the needle point right there? Oh, so you can put any kind of liquid paint in here and then squeeze it's a squeezable plastic and then so especially if you're working on something larger, these come in very handy. Now I know a lot of people will put, let's say for instance, a white ink inside here. Do I have a bottle of white ink on the table? Often I do. um, let's just use this one as an example. This is a Copic white, opaque white, it says. So this actually has a little brush inside it, right? See that, to help you put the paint where you want it. But if you wanted to do continuous lines or dots, you could put this ink inside here and then it would come out of that tip and you could squeeze it and get thicker lines, thinner lines. I mean, these are fantastic. And a lot of people have never even heard of them or seen them, but there you go. It's fine line applicator. I love them. There's a little pin in the top. So you have to put on your best glasses so that you can sit here. Oop, let me make sure it's on camera. You have to sit here and put the pin inside there and then twist it on. And that helps to keep the hole clear so the paint will continue to flow the next time, right? And it's just so convenient. Yes, or masking fluid. Yes, as a matter of fact, I use them for masking fluid. I think you probably saw me do that last week, right? This is my masking fluid pen. Exactly the same fine line applicator. And I put the Pebeo drawing masking fluid inside there. So thanks for mentioning that, Mark. Yes, but you can do it with paint too and do this exact process that we're talking about using using those. Okay, I'm back. Unknown Text Gaming, YouTube. Welcome in over on YouTube. Okay, let me put some of these things aside. And are we ready? Oh, we're not quite ready to go over top of the table yet. Not quite, almost. Let's talk about some artists because I like to share with you my inspiration, and I will be sure in the YouTube video to put links to these artists in the description of the video. So let me see. Hold on a second here. Let's start with Andrea Nelson. Andrea Nelson art. So here she does all different kinds of art, primarily watercolor art, but here she is working on what she calls turn those V's into U's. That's what she calls it. So this is her using a Sharpie and working on turning her V's. So that's the points where the lines meet into U's. And here is the piece that she was just working on right there with it done. This is her Instagram. So I'll be sure to put her Instagram in there. But there you go, where she did the turn the V's where the lines intersect into U's. And then this one is so cute. Just like I showed you the dragonfly, she did the butterfly first and then did all of her squiggly lines around it and then turn that into a neurographic painting with watercolor. There you go. And there it is with all the colors in it. Isn't that fun? This is an excellent thing to do with kids too. Excellent thing to do with kids. It'll keep them busy for a little while, turning all those V's into U's. I love it. All right, this is Sweetie P Studios. And here's one that's completed, but she made it into a mixed media piece. So besides just turning all of her V's into U's and then putting watercolor in the background, she also went ahead and you can see a lot of dots on the top there. She did some stamping on top of it and turned it into a mixed media piece. But it's fabulous, fabulous. I love it. Here again, Sweet Pea Studios, and this one she just went nutso. It's a larger piece, and so she's taking something like a sun. Actually, I think that's what she calls it. Neurographic solar flare, she calls that. And so she went ahead and turned all of those V's into U's. And there's just something about that that is very attractive to the brain. This is a gentleman called George Mails Art. And what he does is he decorates envelopes. That's his thing. George Mails Art. So he was thanking Sweet Pea in one of his text message or in one of his messages. It was actually this one that I'm going to show you. He's thanking Sweet Pea Studios for teaching him about neurographic art. And then he did this one on an envelope. How cool is that? It's simple, but man, very modern-esque, right? Modern art style. And then he started to go, that was a very simple, um, like just basic neurographic art. Then you can take it to the next level. And this is the same person, George Mails Art. And then he started, so he's turning those V's into U's everywhere that the lines meet, but then he's also adding a whole bunch of other doodles in there. You see that? How fun is that? It's a great, to me, the neurographic art is a great jumping off point, and it's very meditative when you're doing the black and white. Or you could use black paper and put white on it instead. You could do the opposite, right? And then it just, you can take it to a whole other level. So here's this one, this person, Silza, and also on Instagram. And get ready. There you go. So she's just going really way out, way out. This is so simple, and yet it looks extremely complicated, doesn't it? Wow, right? So I'm going to show you a few more of hers. This one I was really enamored with, really, really enamored, but you see the different shapes that she puts in there. And then here she puts shapes and colors. Notice how she does, like she has those white dots on top of there. I love that. And then this one right here. Whoa, see the checkerboard where I put circles? She put in the jellyfish, she put what? She put checkerboards, which I think are, they look amazing, right? So I wanted to show you these to kind of give you some ideas of where we can go with that. So let's go ahead then over top of the table and I'm going to compare some of the lines that these markers make, and then we're going to do some. Love that. Oh, here's one other thing that I did in preparation, which was kind of fun, and that is I used black glue. Have y'all ever seen this before? So this is from Blick Art Supply, and it is a black glue. So I've seen that some people are making their own black glue and using it for this technique to make lines. what I find is that when you use black glue, your lines are a lot more sort of wonky. You see how wonky those are? It's still fun though. And what the heck, we could still use this and go back in with an acrylic marker like this, and then round out those lines. So basically we're doing the same process, but we're getting more organic lines with the glue. Plus the glue gives you a little bit of texture. I don't know if you can see that. Oops, let me get that over there. If you look at it from the side, the glue gives you a little bit of extra texture. So that, I thought that was kind of fun. I saw somebody doing that and I'm like, oh, that's a cool idea. Let me try it. This is, by the way, this is just this is by Jack Richardson. I love these. I buy them 50 at a time. It is a 4x6 postcard, watercolor. So you can do your watercolors and any mixed media right on top of these. They're terrific because they go right onto a greeting card, like this one right here. So that's a painting, and I'm able to take the painting. This happens to be acrylic, a mixed media, and I could put it right onto a greeting card, right? Isn't that amazing? Or you can just stick it in a frame. You can do that too. But I love those 4x6, 4x6 postcards. All right, let's, oh, there's my tea. Let me just get a quick sip of tea. Oh, yay, needed that. Let me get rid of that glue off the table. So here is some hearts that I did. This is, right now, this is my favorite sort of um, type of watercolor paper for just playing on, but it's also good enough that if you like what you did, you can make it into, what's the flavor of tea for the day? Oh, good question over on Whatnot, Mark B. It is Bengal spice. And this is the last tea bag of my Bengal spice. So I'm going to have to order some because that is my favorite herbal tea. Mm. I had my coffee earlier today already. Okay, so this is US Art Supply. They come in packs of 3, super economical. My wife loves that one. Yes, Mark, that's one of my favorites. There's peppermint and I like chai tea, and oftentimes I will have chai tea in the evening. Actually, I can taste spice in my cup, and that's because I had chai tea in here before the Bengal. But this watercolor paper from US Art Supply, very economical. Uh, and it says made in PRC, People's Republic of China. I believe that PRC is Taiwan. And but it is a really good all around just paper to have in your studio for, as you can see, messing around on. I test my colors. The nice thing also about this paper is it's rough on one side and it's smooth on the other side. So you can experiment with different techniques on rough and smooth paper as well. So this is one that I did with the brush ink and with little hearts in it. So I drew the hearts first and then did swirly lines, but you can kind of see how wispy the lines look because I was using a brush pen. But let's go to another page and I want to show you the difference here between these different pens and markers. So here we're going to do Sharpie. Let me make sure you can see that. Yes. Okay, Sharpie. Then, so we're just going to do a line like that. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 V's that I'm going to turn into U's there. And so let's do that real quick. Like you sort of create a U and then you fill it in. And then you create a U over here, create a U there, and create a little U right here. So you see why I say they call it neurographic art? That looks similar to a synapse. And a synapse is where your nerve your nerves connect in your brain, and then electricity goes shooting across these neural networks. And it kind of looks like that, but that's how you turn those V's into U's, and that was with a Sharpie. Next, let's use the Signo. So we're going to use the Signo. This is a gel pen, and we're going to do the same thing. So you can see the line is a little bit thinner. It's a 1 millimeter. And then same thing, we're going to turn the V's into U's. What I try to do is just make sure that the lines are smooth. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for smooth curves instead of V's. Smooth curves. There we go. So that's that one. Now, I don't know if you can notice it or not, but it's a little shiny because it's gel ink and it takes a little bit of time for it to dry. So if you want immediacy, you want to go fast, the Sharpie's really fast. But it's not an archival ink there, right? Now let's go to the archival ink, which is our Sakura Pigma graphic. And so this is the Sakura Pigma, and it's the number 1. Okay, so we're same thing. Now, what I'm noticing is because this is watercolor paper, the watercolor paper is thirsty. And so because it's thirsty, I'm not getting a dark line with this graphic. This graphic likes a more vellum-like paper, one that's not quite so thirsty, but it still works. And so we're going to curve this edge right here, turn that one into a curve this edge right here. You sort of make it into a U shape. I find that this particular marker is better for doing the curves so that I'm concentrating the ink in one place rather than the continuous line. Okay, so now we've got the synapse there, and it's almost completely, I mean, it dries very fast. If I hit it with water though, watch what happens if I grab a little bit of water. If I grab a little bit of water, there's a little bit of bleeding if you do it right away. So let me show you. See the bleed? You see the bleed? There's the bleed. So you do need to leave these. It's an ink and you need to leave it. Let's see. Mark V says, I bought the Sakura 12 pack on Amazon days. They're nice for ink and wash. Yeah, exactly. Because you can put watercolor over them. You can just put water over them while they're fresh and you'll get a bleed, which is awesome. Awesome, awesome. Okay, then let's do, so that was the micron. Let's do the pigment-based ink. So this is the Sennelier pigment-based ink. Good. The thing you have to be careful of with these, they have a top that comes off like that. Can you see inside there where there's a bunch of paint? So sometimes when you pull the top off, ink can spatter, can go everywhere. So you do want to be careful when you take the lid off because they're very juicy. And the other thing you have to be careful of is that they do just, this top part twists off. Eee. And there's a cartridge in there. So you just, sometimes I find as I'm taking the lid off, I'm unscrewing it at the same time. So make sure this is seated all the way, that's screwed on, and then you're ready. If you need the ink to flow more, so see how it's a little bit dry when you take it right out of your, I just plucked it out of where I was storing it like this, up and down. So if you need the paint to flow, you can squeeze the barrel a little bit because it's plastic. So you can just squeeze it a little bit and get the paint to flow. And now you've got a lot more. Now a lot more is coming out. Let me make sure it's juiced, what I call juiced up. Yep, now it's more juiced up. Okay, so when I'm doing the neurographic, I like to work really with the tip here. And what is this? This is the Sennelier Sennelier ink brush. I love working with ink brushes because the lines are very organic. They're not just straight, and I love that. So let's do this. Nice. So there is what the lines look like before I turn the X's, before I turn the V's into U's. And I just try to make them nice and smooth like that. It's nice that these are pigment ink, so they are very, very archival. This is a very archival. All right, so I'm gonna put my top back on there. Snaps on. And then let's throw a little bit of water on there because this is ink. So similar to this being an archival ink over here, the Sakura Pigma, this one also is the Sennelier ink brush is also just a pigment ink, an archival ink. So if I hit this with water before it's dry fully, it's a permanent ink, but I don't know if you can see there, but it bleeds, right? So if you hit it too soon, it's gonna bleed. All right, what else do I have here? Let's do the acrylic. So with the acrylic pens, what I like to do is I like to take the 1.2 millimeter or the 4 millimeter to do the initial line, and then come in with the next smaller size to do the U's. Oh, thanks for the hearts over on Whatnot. I appreciate it. So since we're using the 1.2, these are what I call pump markers, right? So you have to pump them to be sure that the acrylic paint, there's a little ball in there and you need to get that paint all mixed up. So before I put it on here, it's the tip is there and you have to pump it to be sure that the paint is flowing. So that's what I do there. And so this is the Pevio acrylic. Okay. And then, so this will give you a little bit thicker line, which is nice. There it goes. So you see that's even a little bit thicker than the Sharpie. I'll show you. There's, it is. And then you come over here and then there's the Sharpie. So the Pebeo one is nice and thick. And then I'm going to take the next smaller size. So in this case, it's the 0.7. And I'm going to shake it first. And then we're going to pump the top here on some paper to be sure that the paint is flowing. Yeet. There we go. And now I can use it and come in and turn my V's into U's. But this is just acrylic paint. So just like the ink, the acrylic paint, if you hit it with a brush while it's still wet, it will run. There we go. So I don't know if you can see right there. Can you see the light? It's like glinting in the light because it's still wet. So that's going to take a little bit of time to dry, but it is acrylic. So once it's dry, it is permanent. And I'm going to use, and it's pigment, not dye based. So I'm just going to run some water along here and you get the same thing. You get that really cool bleed. I love the bleed. I love the bleed. Right? The bleed is awesome, but make sure if that the brush that you're using, do not use your finest watercolor brushes with acrylic markers to get the bleed like this, okay? Because acrylic paint, if you forget to wash this out right away, the bristles of your brush, they can get hard and it can ruin your finest watercolor brushes. Now, the reason that I use the Princeton Velvet Touch brushes all the time in my studio So I have several of them here, they have different types. These are the rounds, these are the flats. The reason that I use these in my studio so much is because this is a synthetic hair. It's not a natural hair, and it will, you can use these with any medium, oil, acrylic, and watercolor. All right, that's the beautiful thing here, is that you can use these velvet touch brushes across different media. Um, just make sure that you're rinsing it and cleaning it properly so that you don't ruin it for working with watercolor. What I do after I'm done with a session, if I've used acrylic with it, I go into my kitchen and I use the general soap. So I have a big tub with a block of general soap in it, and I wash it in the general soap. Or you can just use soap and then mash the bristles in your hand to get all of that acrylic paint out. You do not want your acrylic paint drying in here. Now, what happens if your acrylic paint dries on your brush? I know somebody's probably thinking that, like, well, what the heck? What do I do if, acrylic paint, I forgot and I get acrylic paint crusty in my brush? If it's a good quality synthetic brush like this, you can just take the brush, put it, um, put the bristles in Murphy oil soap, Murphy oil soap, and and leave it 20, overnight or 24 hours. And the Murphy oil soap works in there and will help to break up the acrylic. And then you'll be able to wash it on your general soap or other brush soap, and it should take the acrylic out for you. Okay. And then restore your brushes. Woohoo! There you go. So that's how you create the little where the lines meet. Isn't that fun? And like I said, if you're working on black paper, you can use white instead, because Signo, for instance, makes a beautiful white pen. Ooh, do I have some black paper handy? If I have my black paper handy, I will show you this on black paper. Come on, black paper. There we go. I have a bunch of papers next to me. Oh, yes. This is a great one. This is by Claire Fontaine. It's a mixed media. Paint on, it's called, and it says black. So let's try it. Let's try it. Oh, you can see I have a bunch of things I was messing around with on here. So let's just try it on here. This is so fun. Thanks for being with me on a Sunday evening. I appreciate you. Okay, so here is the Signo Uniball. It's white. Let me just get it started. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. You could also use white paint, acrylic paint, the thin paint. So let's just do this and do this. Can you see that? Beep. There you go. There it is. And then let's turn those V's into U's. Oh my gosh, yeah, it'll work great. The only thing is, like, how are you going to get color onto there to go inside the different sections? That's where you have to add white wash to your paint. There you go. So there's a synapse right there. For You Paint said, yes, I'm definitely going to have to be trying this out. Awesome. Fantastic. All right, so I'm going to put the white marker away. And some people like to use jelly rolls. Let's try the jelly roll. So this one is the Signo. Signo. And then let's try the jelly roll. A lot of people like to put details on their work with the jelly roll pen. All right. The jelly roll is a little thinner than the broad tip of the Signo, but we're doing the same thing there. There you go. Similar, but I like the Signo better. The Signo is a gel pen. That's nice. It's okay. Let's try the Hey, Critter Chops, welcome in. So here is the Posca. This is an acrylic pen. Let's see what happens when we use this. I might have to pump it, yeah, to get the paint to flow. Oh, okay. This is acrylic paint. I like that a lot. Can you see that? Yes. Hello, hello. Woohoo! We're doing neurographic painting tonight. So that is where you create squiggly lines and then you fill them in to create U's where the lines meet and they were V's and now they turn into U's. So actually this Posca is probably working the best out of all of them. And I'll show you up close in just a second because it is acrylic paint and a marker. Fabulous. Fabulous. So this one right here is the Posca. This is a 3M, which is one of their smaller tips, but you can also get what they call a 5M, which is a little bit larger. That's like 3mm, 5mm for the size. But I really like this one. That's a good one. Okay. So we're going to have to add some white to our watercolor. Now, that's a little bit of acrylic paint, but I don't care. I'm going to add some watercolor to it. Yeah. So the medium for this watercolor is called gum arabic, and it's water soluble and it re-wets in water. Where acrylic paint uses a plastic acrylic binder, and it is not re-wettable when it's dry. That's the difference. The pigments are the same. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of the watercolor pigment and I'm going to add it in with that little bit of white so that I can tint the white. The white was acrylic paint that came out of the Posca pen, right? Come here. So yes, I'm tinting my acrylic and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to paint inside the white with the tinted acrylic. Isn't that fun? So yeah, when I say I'm a mixed media artist, you understand what I mean. I can go a little crazy. Let's see now. The thing with working with tube paint, no matter what kind of tube paint, you see how a bunch of the paint is coming out because of the pressure in the tube. I happen to have some of these colors here, so I'm just going to put that extra paint right in there. You can't do that with acrylic unless you use it up in the same painting session, because once it dries, of course, it's permanent, right? The acrylic is, but with watercolor, I can put that excess into a little bowl. And this is some that was dry from before. And all I have to do is add a little bit of water to it. And um, that binder, which is what was the binder I told you? Gum Arabic, it re-wets in water. So the color is resuspending. It's coming back up. Isn't that crazy? It's crazy, crazy cool. Okay, let's just wipe this up a little bit because there's a little bit of acrylic in there, right? From my brush. All right, cool. So that is ready to go. I always have these little spare dishes and things around that I can put it. Critter Chop said watercolor is good forever. Yes, sir. I have a bunch. If you're on Whatnot and you don't follow Critter Chops, please go follow Critter Chops. He has amazing shows. And I have actually bought a bunch of handmade watercolor by Critter Chops. So he makes his own watercolors. They're fabulous. And I have used them before during the workshops, but my tin that has the Critter Chops handmade watercolors is in the other room. Otherwise, I would show you. But they come in pans just like these. So his watercolors come in pans like this. And I think the heart red is probably my favorite. I mean, the blues are fabulous too, that are made by Critter Chops, but I do love that heart red by Critter Chops. Okay, so that's creating the lines on white paper or on, I mean, creating the little synapses, the little turning the V's into U's. So let's make some artwork. And so what are we gonna do first? First. I think I'll work in this notebook right here. And so let's see where we are. Boop, right there. So we're actually going to work on the textured side. Doesn't matter really. Doesn't matter. Either one will work. Let's see. I think, what am I going to use first? I'm going to use the Sharpie first to just show you, you don't have to have fancy art supplies to have fun. That's the beautiful thing. Now, of course, if you're working with children, you probably don't want to give them a Sharpie and say, here, go paint, because what are they going to do? It's going to go off the paper and it's going to go on your walls and everywhere, right? You don't want that. Don't do it. So if you're working with children, you're better off using something like a oh, let me think what's good here, what would be good for them. Maybe a Posca pen would be good for them. Like Mark V said, he got himself a whole set of the Posca markers. Or no, the Sakura markers are also good, but there's none of these are going to wash out. Oh, okay. Here's what's going to wash out. These Color X markers. So these are watercolors, which means that even the black, let me show you the black. So here is the black Color X. And so if I make marks, I'm gonna make a circle right here. The trick is that if you're gonna make the lines with the Color X, just don't press too hard because this is a felt tip and you'll mess up the tip otherwise. So then I'm gonna put a line through there like that. And then I'm gonna come in everywhere where the lines meet. And I'm going to create these little U's, right? So right there. And then here, this is something that, like I say, I would be more comfortable giving children the non-toxic watercolor like this, because then if they decide to go put it somewhere else, you can wash it off. And I'm going to show you in just a moment. Uh, so let me get a U here and a U here. I love the way these look like little pods when you do the lines and the circles. I think it's so much fun. But this is watercolor. So because it's watercolor, it's going to stay water reactive too. So if I bring water along here, you're going to see it's going to start to bleed, which could be a cool effect, right? I love when watercolor bleeds like that. So you see the watercolor bleed effect on the edges there. So from the perspective of this project, you may or may not want, but if I were doing it with kids, I would use the Color X Black. Now let's say that I want to put some color in there. So this is my core watercolors. Let me show you what a tube looks like. Yeah. See where it says Q. Oh, let me do this. See where it says QOR. So these are made by Golden Paints. And the core watercolors I love because they re-wet very easily. And they have their own proprietary, what do you call it, a binder they call Aquazol. And what's great about Aquazol is that it re-wets in a second. Like I didn't spray, normally I would spray down my palette before I start working with it. This one I don't even need to spray down my palette. I have tons of paint in my brush. And oops, let me just do this. And now I can come in here and fill this in like this. Oh my goodness, so much fun. So much fun. Can you tell that's my favorite color? Let me show you. Do I have the tube here? Come on. Yes. It's called Cobalt Teal, this color. And you can tell it's my favorite because you see how the tube is almost completely gone. It's almost completely done, right? So that's Cobalt Teal by Core. And there you go. So yes, you can get the paints to stay inside the lines, but if I went outside the lines and I were using the core, I'm sorry, if I were using the ColorX marker, then it would just fade in with the black lines, which may be fine. That may be fine. You may be like, oh, awesome. I love that effect. But let's use something that won't do that, like the Sharpie. So I'm going to do a circle here with the Sharpie. There we go. And then let's do another line here and maybe another line in here. And then what do? We just turn everywhere that there's overlap is where I want to go in and create little U's. And that will give me rounded edges everywhere. The idea is what I do when I finish coloring in, like doing this Uing process, turning my X's into U's. I will go back and I look, are there any sharp points or is everything nice and round? Is everything rounded? If everything's rounded, I know that I did my job. So let's do that one and then do one here. So I hope you're playing along and trying one for yourself. Like that, like that. And then everywhere that it meets the O, I want everything to be rounded. Like that. And I can see right now, right here, it comes to a point. So you're rounding the points. This is so meditative. I think you're going to fall in love with it. Rounding, now it's all rounded right there, right? Your brain loves smooth surfaces like this. Nice, smooth, rounded surfaces. Let's do that. Do it right there. There's that part. Nice and smooth and round. And then up here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're doing that everywhere there's an intersection. You know that you have 4 areas that you have to create those rounded edges. So then I'm going to show you what I mean about check your work and then look at your shapes. And are there any hard edges or is everything nice and rounded and smooth and very organic looking, right? You see that there? Oh, that just makes me so happy. And that's the purpose of it. That's why they call it neurographic art. Okay, so that was with the Sharpie. And then we're going to let that dry for just a second. We're going to move over here and I'm going to use the ink brush. So let's take the ink brush and maybe instead of doing a circle, I'll do a funky little oval. I just love how the brush moves. Oh, brush is so fun. And I'm going to do this. And then maybe I'll come over here and do this. Okay, just for something different. And then let's turn those V's into U's everywhere that they meet. Oh my gosh. So you can see why I had said when somebody had asked, how long does it take? The majority of your time is turning the V's into U's. And then after you turn your V's into your U's, the actual painting doesn't take long at all. The painting just happens very quickly. Nice. So now what you can see is inside here a nice little circle, right? You see how round that is? Instead of being any jagged edges. No jagged edges. Mm-mm. We're going to smooth everything off. No V's, all U's. There we are. Fabulous. But then down here, I've got a couple of V's. So those have to turn into U's. And here, and here. I usually just create a little U and then fill it in. So I'll create a little U. I'll create a little U like that, right here. And then I'll fill it in. I think I'm going to love the brush pens. Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, Mark V. They are, I'm telling you, they are fabulous. And Sennelier products in terms of quality are just excellent. So you can use them confidently, feel good about it because they're archival, and all the Sennelier products are fabulous. Okay. Isn't that fun? Oh my gosh. I am just over the moon. Okay, let's do acrylic. I'm just waiting for these to dry a little bit. And then we'll put some watercolor in them in different ways. So let's start with the bullet tip. And then I'm going to use this pointy tip in there. Oh, thanks for the hearts over on uh, Whatnot. I appreciate it. Okay. This should already be going because I worked with it earlier, but I'm just going to pump it once and make sure the paint is flowing. Yes. Okay. That's what you have to do sometimes with pump markers. You pump them and then you have to pump them on some paper to get them flowing. And that happens sometimes with the Posca pens as well. All right, let's do this. Let's see, maybe I want to do a sort of a little person. So let's do like a body. And then let's do something like a head. Just, I'm freewheeling here. And then we want some legs. So I'm going to do this to get some legs going. Maybe I'll come from here and do this to get some legs going there. And then instead, I could use this 1.2 in order to go in and create my U's, but what I find is the fatter tips are a little bit harder to work with and get like exactly the shape that I want. So I will usually go to the next size down. Hello there, Coral Kun. Welcome in, welcome in. So then this one, good, it's still running. It's a little, using the next smaller size or this 0.7 pen is a little more, it's just a little more precise, right? Okay, this is so fun. Let's do that. And then I have to bring it around that way as well. And then here, make sure everywhere that lines meet is very soft and rounded. I'm going to fill in the middle here. So it kind of looks like a neck. And then here, it's going to look cute. I find that when you have lines intersecting a circle, like I'll show you in just a moment, they look sort of bug-like. It's very interesting. It's like the two hemispheres or sides of a bug eye. It's very cool. And I'll show you that in just a moment. Let's round these out. And round this area out here and the edges there. Everything should be smooth. Ah, so cool. There you go. You see the little critter? Doesn't he look amazing? Love it. Okay, but that is acrylic paint, so it's going to take a minute or two to dry, right? It's going to take a little bit. You could, if you wanted to, you could use a heat tool like this. Ooh. And dry the acrylic. It won't hurt anything. That'll just speed it along, right? I could also use this on watercolor up here if I wanted to. But just so that you know, it's okay with acrylic to use heat to speed up the drying. The only thing you have to be concerned about or careful of is that if you're using heat with acrylics, don't hold it too close or for too long because acrylic paint can bubble. And of course, you don't want that, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to show you on this one up here using the marker. So let me grab, what the heck, I'll grab my magenta that I just filled, right? And it's, like I said, it's a felt tip. This is the Color X marker from Pebeo. And so watch what I do here. I just put it around the outside like this. So I get a good amount around the outside like that. So I'm just more or less outlining it, right? And then I take my brush. Here's where the magic happens. And I run my brush over it. And because it's watercolor, it lifts the color. And it gives it a lot of dimension because see how it leaves the middle since I didn't put any paint in the middle? If I just hit it with a little bit of water and then brush it across that center, it gives it a lot of dimension by giving you a darker color around this side and clear in the like a lighter color in the middle. Okay, let's take the turquoise and we'll put the turquoise here. Same thing. And because it's watercolor, it is water soluble. Woohoo! Love it. And then we'll just go around here and the same thing happens. Can you tell I love this? It is so much fun. Let me bring it up closer so you can see, right? What other color are we going to put on there? We go, oh, fluorescent yellow. There are a couple of fluorescent colors with the, oh, this is just light yellow. This is not the fluorescent. Okay, that's all right. Light yellow. I'll just tiny bit of water across there. And then let's do one of these greens. This is the emerald green, or I think they call it forest green. So we'll just run forest green around here. And then hit it with water. So you see what I mean by the doing the work of the neurography, which is sitting there and turning all the V's into U's is what takes the time. Because to add the color is lickety split. How cool is that? Isn't that amazing? It's just amazing. Now that's using these watercolor markers. Let's try, hold on, let me just put them aside so that they are. Now let's try the Tombow. Let's do the Tombow next. So a lot of people like to use the Tombow for this kind of drawing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use it on this one down here. And it is a water-based. These are cool because it has a bullet tip on one end and it has a brush tip on the other end. So you can do detail with it as well. But let's take the brush tip and see if it'll work the same way as the Juicy Color X. So I'm just going to put the color around and leave the center undone. And then let's hit it with some water and see what happens. Okay, I'm getting a little bit of bleeding, but not nearly as much. Yeah, it's not, these are not as juicy as the Color X. The Color X are just so juicy. All right, let's try the Deco brush. And it says that it is pigment right on it. So it's not a dye base, it's a pigment base, which means it's going to have permanent ink and it's going to be artist grade. What color is this? I think this is ultramarine indigo blue. So it's quite a dark blue. Let's put some of this on here. Try that one. And then dip it in the water and work it around. Okay, I'm getting some bleed out of it, but it's just not, yeah, it's not the same. Not the same. I got some bleed out of it, but what I want you to see is see how diffused that is. And then look at these two. They don't have the same, um, they don't diffuse in the same way. All right, let me try. What's another one I can try? I want to get one of the Hebio, why don't we try this one? No, it's not dark enough. You won't be able to see it well enough. Let's take this. This is Caribbean Blue acrylic marker. So let's try that one. Hey there, Anne on YouTube said hi. Hello, Anne. Thanks for joining. If y'all are on YouTube, if you don't mind, please click the like button. I'd appreciate that. So pump marker, acrylic. I'm gonna start the paint flowing and then I'm gonna put the paint right here. It's this paint is more opaque, the acrylic. Of course, the watercolor markers are more transparent. But while it's fresh, yeah, so it works. But again, I'm sort of losing that. I'm losing the diffusion. Yeah, it works, but it doesn't diffuse like that. It just doesn't. You have to, like, I have worked and played with so many paints over the years that I'm here to share with you my favorites, the ones that I know work the best. So for this process, if you want to use a marker, so let's say that you're traveling and you want to use a pen and a marker, I would say an acrylic marker or a Sharpie for making the lines, and then get yourself some of these Colorex watercolor markers for making the, if you're traveling, because then that way they're not messy, right? All right, so that's it. I didn't like those, but I hadn't tried them before, so you kind of have to try them, right? Let's go back to the core watercolors. That's these, and this is what they look like in the tube, and that's what's inside here. So let's use these. Ooh, here, do I have room? I have to make room, make it work. Okay, there we go. So you can see that, right? Yes, you can see them. Let me do that in case I want to color mix up in here. Maybe I should do this then. Boop. There we go. Better. Mo better. So then I have room to color mix right there. Okay. I have my computer across there and I'm looking to make sure that and you see it. Yes, core. I was curious. Okay. So this is my core collection. I actually bought some more, but I'm going to be doing a haul video on YouTube with a bunch of stuff that I got from Blick and a bunch of stuff that I got from Jerry's Art Supplies. And when I was at Blick, I got more core paints that are going to fill the rest of these over here, the empty half pans. And so those are ones that you will see later. But for right now, this is my collection: Payne's Gray, Dioxazine Purple, Indigo Blue, Ultramarine Blue, Phthalo Blue, Cobalt Teal, Hooker Green, uh, let's see, Orulin, I think it's pronounced, Pyrrole Orange, Permanent Scarlet, Quin Crimson, Quin Magenta, and then gold down there. That's what's in here right now. So let's grab something here. Now, what most people do when they start with their watercolors, and if their watercolors are dry like this, they spray it with some water, and that helps to what's called activate that what did I call it? What is the binder again? I don't know. Somebody put it in the chat. Mm. So we are going to let's grab this orange and put that in here. So I'm going to start on the outside, sort of creating a little rim and leave a hole in the middle. So see how I did that? And now core watercolors, I would call them modern colors. So they're quite highly pigmented. And now with just water in my brush, I'm going to go over it, and that's going to give you that soft little bit of white or lighter color in the middle. Okay, so where it bleeds. Let's go ahead next. And I do have a purple here. It's called dioxazine purple, but you see how dark it is? I don't want a dark purple like that. So I'm actually going to mix a purple, and I'm going to use magenta right here. So there's some magenta. One of the things about these core paints is they explode when they hit water, and I love that. And so I'm going to show you with the next one if I wet the area first and then I put the paint in. But let's get ourselves I'm mixing up my own purple, and I'm using the teal instead of using one of the other blues. Ooh, so that gives me like a really nice soft lavender, doesn't it? Lovely. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put some water in there. So I'm going to use a different brush. Same type, the Velvet Touch. You're reading my mind, right? So I'm going to get this area in the middle here wet first, and then we're going to drop the color in. Remember, these lines were the acrylic marker, and they're fully dry, so they're not going to bleed. So now this area inside here is wet. And I'm going to take that beautiful color that I just mixed, like a heather purple, and I'm just going to drop it in there. Yeah. And it begins to, can you see it there? It begins to sort of diffuse. Really cool. Really cool, really cool, really cool. Another thing about colors that you mix yourself is oftentimes as they dry, the two pigments sometimes will separate as it dries, and that gives you just incredible variation in your colors, and I love that. Okay, so there's dropping it into wet. Why don't we do this? Okay, let's finish this little one, and then I will show you getting a diffused around the outside. And what other color do I want here? I had orange. Let's just put some of the teal, my favorite color, right in here in that small area. Okay, now it's kind of juicy, like a little too much water for my liking, too wet. So I'm going to take the end of my paper towel here, and I'm just going to tap in the middle there. And what happens is it soaks up a little bit of that paint so that into the edge of the paper towel so that it's not too wet. Because I find sometimes if your paint is too wet sitting on there, it'll dry okay, but you can accidentally either tip your paper or run your hand across it, and then it makes a mess. So I like to soak up if I feel there's too much water. Okay, this little cutie. Now, what do I want to put up here for the eyes? For the eyes. What do I want to do for the eyes? I probably want gold for the eyes, right? Let's try the gold. I didn't spray the gold first. I can tell because it's a little sticky. Like it's having a hard time coming up. Okay, let's put some gold on the eyes here. We can always go back over top of it and put like little dots of some color on top of the watercolor once it's dry. So I love the effect of working back over top of it and doing some fun things that way. Okay, and then there's a little tiny spot right here. What am I going to put in the little tiny spot right there? I think this blue, which is phthalo blue right here, is cute. I don't need very much. One of the reasons I like these brushes is they come to a tip, this long round from the Velvet Touch Princeton. You see the sharp tip that it gets right there? And this is the 10. This one is the 6. They all have that nice sharp tip. Oh my gosh, love that. Okay. Doesn't this look like a little bug? Looks like a little bug. So bugs have more than 2 feet, don't they? Let's add a few more feet. Bugs have 6 feet, right? And spiders have 8 feet. So let's give this critter another leg right here. And I'm gonna, remember you wanna turn that into U's. There's a leg there. And then I'm gonna add another leg here. He's so cute. I'm gonna have to turn him into an artist trade card, right? Okay, we're gonna round that out and round this side out. Nice. One more leg up here at the top. I'm actually using the wrong acrylic marker for the legs. They're not as thick as the other ones. So I just switched back to the 1.2. And then let me just do this for this leg. Make these legs the fatter as well. There we go. Like that. And then let's make this one a little bit fatter. Come on now. Yes, that's the 1.2. And then up here, we'll put another little leg. And we'll round that out. See, it really is a lot easier to use the 0.5 to round it out. I'm making a bit of a mess. There we go. That's better. There we go. Now it looks like a proper bug, right? Now it looks like a bug with the 6 legs. All right, so if I want to create a diffused area around that, I love using these core because, like I said, if the area is wet, it will explode into the area. So let's put some water or just around here and go kind of create a background for it. So I'm just adding water, and then whatever color I want to pick up, let's pick up I want to pick up this pyrrole orange. And then when I drop the water, when I drop the color in there, it just explodes. Can you see it exploding? So fun. I love that. I use that explosion effect to my advantage all the time. Let me put a little bit more clean water around here. Just with this, oh, 5 star, 4 stars. Yeah, yeah. Or the explosions I see Mark V put in his comments. Yes, they do. They explode into the water. Love that. And they'll also explode into your other paints if you have other paints on your surface that are still wet. And so sometimes that frustrates other artists, but I can tell you, I love it. I love it. I use the explosion to my advantage. I do love it. I'm making sure there's plenty of water all over here before I go and pick up my orange and just let it. I'm just tapping and letting it explode. It's just chasing, it's chasing the water, which is fantastic. Love it. So you see how it exploded around it? Isn't that fun? That is so fun. Okay, lovely. And I want you to notice right here with that lavender that I created, can you see how it's separating? I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but it's actually separating into the magenta and the blue just a little bit, which I think is so fun. Isn't that terrific? Just fantastic. Okay, so we're gonna actually do a piece. I mean, I know these are like doing pieces too, but let's do a piece. And I want to do either the for you, and you can make comments and tell me which one you want. So I can do another dragonfly. I can do one of these jellyfish. I can do an abstract. So you tell me in the comments. I'm going to get my water color pad. We are, or I, yeah, so I can do an abstract, a jellyfish, or a dragonfly. Let's see. Abstract. All right, let's do the abstract. So this is my favorite studio paper, just all around. And it is the Canson XL watercolor paper. It is, this is the cold press version. I think there's also a hot press. So what's the difference between cold press and hot press? Cold press has a little bit of texture to the surface, and hot press is smooth because they run it through hot rollers. Okay. And this is a great, just all around studio paper. Again, the Canson XL watercolor paper. And so we are going to, I want this to be archival. So we are not going to use Sharpie. And I don't want everything running all over the place. So I'm not going to use the ColorX marker. I am going to use the ColorX marker for inside, but I'm not going to use that for the lines. Okay, so for the lines, my favorite, really, I have to say, for permanent is either this one or this one. So I'm going to let you tell me. Do you want me to use the acrylic marker or the ink brush? Because they both dry in about the same amount of time. So brush, please. Okay, let's do the brush. Will do. I just love it. Maybe I should use the brown brush. Let's do the brown brush. This is a sepia color, I believe. No, an umber, burnt umber. Let's use the burnt umber for something different. I just love the burnt umber. Okay, I'm not going to open this over top of my paper because I know how the burnt umber goes. And oftentimes I get a little splash. So let's see if when I open it, if I get a splash or not. Oh, it did well. But see, it's a little bit dry because it's been sitting up like this. And so all the paint is down here. So let me shake it a little bit, squeeze it a little bit. Yeah, I can see the paint beginning to come down in. It's almost ready to drip off the top. Yes, that'll be kind of fun. let's do this one, the burnt umber. Now I just posted, meaning that I took the lid. You can take the lid and put it on the back like that, so you don't lose it. It doesn't roll off the table, whatever. Okay, so here we go with the paper. I'm gonna make sure it's in frame. I have to get a quick drink. Mm. Okay, so let's, what I want to do is I want to do a something like the one artist did that with a more significant circle. So let's do a significant circle here. So see how I'm going back over it, because that first time on watercolor paper, it's a little thirsty. Cool. Okay, now I'm going to do another circle, maybe like this. It's really easy to do circles with these brush pens. They're so nice. And then do I want to do, it is okay to do other shapes. I'm like that other artist did a triangle. So let's do a triangle right here. Why not? Let's bring a triangle in. And then we want to create lines, our squiggle lines, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a smaller circle in the middle. And I'm going to do my squiggle lines starting from here. Why not? So I'm going to start from here. And that way it kind of gives it a sun-like effect. And then here. Right? Isn't that fun? And then here. What I like about the brush is at the end stroke, you can lift it and get these really wispy bits at the end. I love that. These are great too if you like to do calligraphy writing, like brush pen writing. They're very nice for that. And then let's do another one. One more spoke in the wheel over here. So now I'm going to go back in using that tip, and I'm going to round out anywhere that the lines meet. And here, because I want wherever they meet, I want it there to be a curve. So I hope that you are following along. And I'm putting a curve here where it's meeting the edge. And then a curve here where it exits the circle. Let me make sure you can see that. Okay. So I usually end up going back over my lines just to smooth everything. All right, nice. Now the next one here. That must have been one of my family members who hangs out at my house. Deceased, you know, they hang out at my house. And things like that happen all the time because I wasn't touching anything and it just flipped, right? So, and I see 1111 so often, 1010, 1111, 111. That's language from the other side saying hello. So I love to say hello. Thanks for joining me for my painting session. Often it'll be like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm painting away, and then I get these, messages like that. I look up and it's 1:11 in the morning or something like that. That's what happened last night. I was like, oh, Okay, are you trying to tell me it's time to go to bed? So we're getting our curves going. Curves, curves, curves. I hope that you're doing this along with me using whatever you have. Like I said, if you have a Sharpie, just use a Sharpie. It'll still turn out beautiful. And if all that you have is acrylic paints, just I would suggest using a little bit of water with the acrylic paints to get them to flow for this process. All right, here, lots of curves, lots of curves. Here, all right. Do you see what I mean by how meditative this is? Just sitting there and creating curves. It's terrific. So much fun. Okay, let's do this one right here. Nice. I'm actually going to just go around this center and create my curves on all of them. Just make sure wherever the lines meet that you have a curve. There we are. Nice. It's getting there. It's getting there. Okay. I wanna to hear who else is doing this live while we're doing it, because this is a live show, so I don't have a speed button. Normally when I'm watching videos on YouTube or wherever, I literally up it to 1.25 speed so that I can get through it. But we are doing this slow and low, I guess you would say, right? That's like when you're cooking your brisket. I actually have lamb stew cooking right now as we speak. I can smell it. It's in the kitchen in a crock pot. Fabulous. So I have a delicious dinner for when I'm done as my reward. Nice. So sometimes when you're doing this with a lighter color like this, you see how you can see all of those lines? So that's where I come back in and I go back over it. So after I have those lines in or the curves in, I go back over it and I just deposit a little bit more paint if you want to even that out a little bit more. If you want to even the look of it out a little bit more. You don't have to do that, but I'm just showing it to you. So what I love right here is you see how this is so nice and rounded right there. And that's so sharp. So we're going to get rid of that sharp corner. And we want everything to be nice and rounded. There it is. And then this one. You can be as dramatic with the roundness, like instead of just rounding the corner a little bit like that, I can come way in here and create a big area. So you can vary that as you see fit because it's your work and you're allowed. There we go. Nice. So the inside, I'm just scanning the inside and making sure that everywhere that there are no sharp corners anywhere inside the circle. Everything is rounded and smooth. Oh, so nice. That's why they say that this is very meditative. This practice is very meditative. You're just you're being aware and you're making everything nice and smooth. And your brain loves that. Okay, we're gonna go here on the triangle and here, nice and smooth. And then the inside of the triangle as well. The inside of the triangle I need to make round. So that little area where the edge of the triangle and the line came in, we're turning that area inside there into smooth, a circle. Nice and smooth. It's okay in this case because I do have a triangle. There's no way on this point right here because the point doesn't go anywhere else. There's no line coming to it. I'm not going to be able to get rid of that point at the point of the triangle, but that's okay. That is a-okay. We'll maintain our circles and our triangles, so our geometric shapes are going to stay in there. Go with that. And then we're going to come here and we're going to round this edge out right here. Fantastic. Um, I'm looking forward to having a dry area in here so that we can do some dots on top of there afterwards. Nice. Now I'm noticing that this part of the circle right here only has the initial go around, but these areas are a little bit darker from laying more layers in. So I'm actually going to go back over top of this with another layer to darken it. There we go. Nice. I'm loving it. Loving it. And then here, where this line comes out of the triangle, I can, because there's a line meeting the triangle, I can create a curve right here. There we are. And of course, on this side of the triangle, I can create a curve right there. And then inside the triangle on each one of the corners, going to round off the corners. So the inside of the triangle is all rounded. There's another place where the line met the triangle over here. And then let's go around this corner right here. There we go. So now my triangle, even though my triangle has sharp points on the outside, the inside looks like, when you're playing pool, I would play pool. When my kids were growing up, I had a house with a pool table in it. And so we'd say, rack 'em, right? And when you go and you get the rack, I wonder what that would look like on that poly paper. Oh, fun. Very fun on the poly paper, which I will be happy to show you. But okay, so that was rounding everything. So I can't round the outside of the points here, but I can round the inside. And so that's what I've done, right? Everything on the inside there is all rounded. Oh, so let's set this aside to dry so that it's permanent. And let's look at the question that Mark V was asking. How would this look on the poly paper? So let me give you, I think I have two options for you. Let me see. Yes. So Mark V, are you curious on the UPO paper, which is polypropylene, or are you curious on the mineral paper, which is stone paper? It's calcium carbonate. Ah, I think you said yep, meaning UPO. Yes. I bet, I bet that, what's that called? I bet that the, uh, spell check probably turned it into yup, right? Okay. So this is Yupo. Yupo is polypropylene. And this, it's super smooth, a joy to work on. It does take watercolor, it does take acrylic. It's really a nice mixed media paper. It also takes um, alcohol inks, which this would be a lot of fun to do, where you make your lines with acrylic, which the alcohol will not, it doesn't, it can degrade it, but if you're just dropping a little bit of alcohol around it, yeah, autocorrect, Mark V said, of course, because autocorrect doesn't recognize Yupo, does it? No, it does not. Okay. So, what do you want me to try on this paper? What do you want me to make the lines with? The options are the acrylic pen, the ink brush, the black ink brush I could do it with, or I can even do it with the watercolor black. Ooh, the sepia is beautiful in that one. So I could do it with the Colorex watercolor. That would be kind of fun to see, how the interaction is with it. Um, or the brush or the acrylic. I would prefer not to use the Sharpie because I want to have something that ends up being archival, right? Something thin. Okay, something thin. Let's do this. If we're going to do thin, then you know that I'm going to go to my micron pens, right? These are archival pens, like ink, something thin. So, Mark, is this appropriate? This is the graphic pen, the Sakura graphic. This is archival ink, permanent ink. And the size I like for doing the lines is the graphic one. So it's 1 millimeter. And let's go ahead and work on here and see what happens. See what happens. It's polypropylene, so it's going to sit on top. I just love, love, love the circles. I love the way the lines cut through the circles. And I like the organicness of the circles. Okay, there's a circle there. I'm going to do a baby circle up here. What's nice about this Yupo paper is that it is, now that one I pushed, is that it has a little bit of tooth to the surface. So as I'm making my circles, I can actually hear it, which is fantastic. There we go. Nice. So then let's draw some squiggles. Let's get some squiggles going. Very smooth. And then this one, I have to have something that goes through this one, right? And then what else? I like to come from over the side like that. And then we can do something else from this side. We have a lot of connections down here, so I need more connections up here. Let's do this one right here. Nice. And then I need something that's just going to go like this. There. There's too much over here, emptiness. So let us start something from over here. There we go. So that looks pretty good. in terms of looking at the balance all the way around where the lines are somewhat meeting up. Now, normally I would go one size down in order to do the little curves, but this is already such a small pen that let's try it. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's already such a small pen that I can just use this one to create those little spots there. Yeah, it's working just fine. But the truth will come in when we add the watercolor, right? That's when we'll learn the real truth about how it's working. Okay, so everywhere that there's a V, we're gonna create a U. I just love that. Love it. Love, love, love that. And so here, and then here, we're just creating U's, creating U shapes. And here, so everywhere that a line meets the circle, we want to be sure that we've got a nice smooth entrance and exit there. Okay, you see that? Oh, looking good. Oh, I missed one right here. There and here. I just want to make sure everywhere that there might have been a V, I'm creating a nice smooth U. There we go. Right here. That line meets. Fabulous. And then right here, of course. Want that to be nice and smooth. Yee. Sometimes I find I just have to keep carrying it along the line because oftentimes people will actually go right over the line that was already there. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going right over that little line so that I can make it a little bit thicker. Can you see that? How it makes it just a little bit thicker, which is okay. It's a-okay. Nice curves, curvy lines. Just curve, curve, curve. And we're gonna curve here. Nice. There you go. You see it beginning to build? Yes. Mark V said, my circles remind him of Ensos. Yeah, I love doing Ensos with my calligraphy brushes. I have a bunch of my Asian calligraphy brushes right here, and I love doing the Enso. The Enso is holding the brush and then using one stroke. And there you go. You've got your circle, right? Your Zen circle. Let's see. This one's not very smooth. Let me smooth this one out a little bit. There we go. Nice. Now, what I'm noticing is that my hand must have been touching over here. And can you see the smudges? I don't know if you can see them because they're just smudges. They're barely there. But it looks like on this, yeah, see, I'm getting smudges over here too. So it looks like on the Yupo paper, when you lay this in there, this permanent ink, you have to wait a while for it to dry, it appears. It's going to take longer to dry because it's not soaking into the paper. It is sitting on top of the polypropylene. Yeah. Ooh. So it's prone to smudging, which means you need to give it more time to dry. Okay, well, that's the first thing we've learned with the Yupo, right? Yep. Okay, good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this aside and let it dry, and then we'll come back. We'll go back to the other one that we were working with, and then we'll come back to this one. Let me just get this extra corner here so that I've got a few sections that I can fill with paint. Phew. There we go. So we will set this aside. One thing that you can do to prevent that smudging that I was doing from my side is just use a piece of paper. See how I have some notes and I was playing around here? Just take a piece of paper clean on the other side and lay it. So lay it wherever you're going to put your hand. So if my hand's going to touch the paper here, this is what you do when you do any sort of a graphite drawing or color pencils. If you're doing work with pastels, anything like that, you put down a piece of just blank clean paper, and that helps you to prevent your hand from smudging, right? So there we are. Nice. Now, what some people do who are Zentangle artists, Zentangle is again a meditative doodling, drawing approach. So they might come into a little space. Let me get this one, get this space all rounded here. So they might come into a little space like this, and let's say put some curves in there. Since this is all about curves, right? So they might fill one of their spaces like this. You don't have to put color, you don't have to put watercolor in every space. You can also fill your spaces with designs like that. So we're going to set that aside and let it fully dry. And then we're going to see what happens when we put watercolor in it later. Okay, Mark V. So that's just for you. Just for you. That's set off to the side. This one should be dry now. So let's go in with some watercolor. Put that away. This is, let's see what, this was the turquoise. Maybe I'll take the turquoise. Oh, you're quite welcome. Mark V said, thank you. So I'm working again with the Color X markers. And I'm just gonna go around the edge. You don't have to be too precise. I'm actually leaving a little bit of space because you can always fill that space with your brush and your water. I'm just filling this in like this. I'm on watercolor paper now. I'm back to watercolor paper. So this is the Color X, which is a watercolor marker. And the color just is so vibrant and it just explodes into the space. It's crazy. It's crazy. So now I'm using that sharp tip and I'm just going around the edge and activating the edge and bringing the paint. You don't have to, you can leave the white if you want to, but I'm just showing you how you can use the tip of the brush and just come in and activate that edge. Nice. Fabulous. There you go. See how that works? Oh my gosh, so amazing. So what color would I put right here? Not a green. I think orange. Which one is this? Oh, this is Turkish red. That's okay. Red is good. And I'm just going to use more of the tip of the brush here so I can just get it right there and leave the center empty. And then what you might not be noticing is that I'm cleaning off the ferrule, this part of the brush right here. I don't want too much water in the ferrule or the very bottom of the brush when I'm doing this. So I'm tapping it on here. And now let's go around that and then just pull it into the center. Nice. There's a little too much water there. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take the tip of my paper towel and I'm just going to soak up a little bit of that water. There we go. Nice. Bring it up so you can see. There we are. And then over here, let's use our watercolors instead of the markers. So if you have any color requests, shout it out. I'll be happy to accommodate. But you're not going to get this same. Do you see this incredible where the center where I had left it white? Do you see that bleed from the edges? So it's not easy to get that when you're working straight from the pan. Let's use this deeper orange here, the pyrrole orange. Okay. So let's try using it a little bit. I don't have as much water in the brush. So let's see if we can get that same sort of effect in the center by using the paint very thickly around the outside and then coming back in with some more water. So I just put the paint very thick on my brush and I'm leaving the center. See there? So I'm doing essentially the same thing as what the brush was doing. Let's see what happens. Hey, S. Diedrich, welcome in. We're doing neurographic art with watercolor. Okay, so let's just add the water and soften those edges. Yeah, it does work. Yay. Okay, and then I'm going around the outside where there's white just to integrate. Nice. Okay, so that did work. Now I'm picking up a little bit of the orange color so I can get more of that center like that. There you go. So it did work. Didn't work as well as the markers. I can tell you that. Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. The markers are amazing for this. Okay, so let's get another color marker for right here. What is this one? This is, oh, too close to the color of the background. Okay, let's get this beautiful green, which is called spring green. And S. Diedrich, what we're working with right now is the Colorex markers. We used this is a permanent ink brush, and the color was burnt umber that we did for the background. Earlier, we were making our lines with acrylic markers. We were using a Sharpie, so you don't have to be too fancy. But Mark V requested that I use the brush. So that's a permanent ink brush by Sennelier. And that's what I did these outside areas with. And now we're using the felt tip Colorex markers that have watercolor in them. And I'm wanting to show how easy it is to color these in using these Pebeo markers, watercolor markers. Okay, so we've got a bunch of the watercolor paint right there. And now, oop, I can see it's just about to drip. So I'm cleaning that. And then I'm coming in, activating the paint and pulling it across the center where I had left the center to be white. Nice. Neat. There we go. So there's the spring green. That's what that looks like. And I'm noticing that the permanent ink from the ink brush is not moving. Let's do this. Let's just take plain water and run it along like the edge here. It's bleeding a tiny bit. So it's not fully, either it's not fully permanent or it's not fully dry, one or the other. Because yes, it is bleeding a little bit. So I'm not sure whether it's because it's not dry enough or whether it's because it's not as permanent as they say that it is. I'm going to bring this up close so you can see what I mean. Can you see the feathering along the edge there? Which could be a really cool effect anyway. I like feathering. I like that feathering concept. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make the feathering a U. So it's like I'm extending that U right there. Cool. It's a little too wet. So what am I going to do? I'm going to use the end of my paper towel and I'm just going to wick off some of the water. Nice. So now we'll have this interesting little shadow in that area. Okay. So now let's go into the center here. Whee! And real quick, like I'm just thinking I would, there's this big open area right here. So I would just put a few more triangles over here like that. And another one here like that. So this is the Sennelier. It's supposed to be permanent ink in the color burnt umber. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to round out the corners on the inside, right? Round out the corners. So this is the neurographic part of it, rounding the corners. So that the inside is nice and soft and there are no sharp edges. Everything is very smooth to make your brain happy, 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 happy. Okay, so let's do this. Smooth that. Smooth this edge right here. Lovely. And then smooth this edge right here. So the inside is rounded. Yeah, there we go. So there are a couple of extra triangles. I like to do things in threes. So notice that there's one, two, oh, well, there are only well, there are three circles actually. There's this circle, and then there's this circle. And then for the triangles, now I have 1, 2, 3. So that makes me happier. That's the principle of odd numbers um, is a good one to keep in mind, bear in mind as you're working on things like this. Okay, what are we going to put in the center? I'm probably going to use yellow in the center, right? So let me find my yellow, light yellow, and I'm just going to go around. I'm not going to fill in the center. I'm just going around. And then I'm just going to bring, you know what? My water here is quite dirty. Look at how dirty that is. So I'm just going to set this one aside and I have another clean one because I actually have 3 clean ones on the table or 3 on the table. And now I'm going to go to a clean one. Okay. So let's just go over it, pull it across the middle and around the outside. There we go. Nice. So that's where the sun is projecting from. The center looks like an orange slice. Yes, it does. Well, let's put some more orange in there. So where is my orange? This one is the orange. So let's do this. Because I could do this whole piece on the inside here with orange, right? Okay, let's get that nice and symmetrical. And then we're going to hit it with clean water. Clean water. Oh my gosh, the color exploding. And then around the outside here. Fantastic, right? Now, if I wanted more color in there, I can just come in. This is damp, right? I could just come in and put some more color. And if I was like, oh, okay, it didn't quite go far enough for me. So it's okay while it's still damp to add some more. There we go. Let's do this one over here. Nice. So I'm going to use watercolor in a second in some of the other areas. Lovely. Let's bring some water in there. Soften those edges. Pull the water around, 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 and then through the center. Nice. So there you go. That's the second one. Let's go in here to our core watercolors. And we have a dark orange and we have a light orange. So this one, actually, I think this one is Pyrrole Scarlet that I'm grabbing right now. And let's put Pyrrole Scarlet down here. That's very similar in color. That's funny. It's almost the same. It's just harder to get the same diffusion when you're pulling it out of a pan than when you're using the marker. So let's grab just clear water and pull it across the center and pull it around the outside. You don't get nearly the definition. It's a little more, you see how you get more definition here, and this one is a little more diffused. But you know, it's okay because we can always come back later and add lines on top and shapes, and it's all good, right? It is all good. Okay, let's take this other orange, which I think is, what did I say? Permanent, no, this is Pyrrole Orange. That one was Permanent Scarlet. This is Pyrrole Orange. So let's put the Pyrrole Orange right here. This is a more of a red orange, right? More of a red orange. Let me make sure you can see that okay in the picture. Yes. So this one is the Permanent Scarlet. There we go. Make sure the whole thing all around. Make sure all around it's nice and smooth, right? And then clean off the ferrule. Go through the middle and around the edges. Yeah, it doesn't have the same effect as using the markers. I just love the markers for this technique. Now I can always come in while it's still wet and drop in some more. Oops, I grabbed the wrong color. Grab in some more and go around and kind of help too. But it doesn't look anything like using the markers, right? No, 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 it doesn't. But I don't think I have that color in here. Let me see. This is oh, that's an empty marker. It has an interesting color in it. Let's see what color this is. Orange. So let me use this one. I think this is a custom color that I made because yes, it's an orange, but it's a little more pink. And pink is one of my favorite colors to paint with. So I probably threw a little bit of pink in with it. There we go. And then this. Let's try that with my custom color. Let's just bring it. Yeah, I can see that I put some of the fluorescent pink in there. There we go. Lovely. It's just a little more pronounced. That the line is more pronounced. And I like that. You can see on these where there was more water in the center, you see how you get some diffusion, which also looks good. It just, to me, doesn't look as good as the markers. Okay, let's do this one also. Ah, over here. Like that. So this is one of the empty ones. You can tell because it's clear right here. And I can see the color through that little window. So it's one that I custom mixed my color and then filled the empty marker. As I finish my bottles, so as I finish these bottles, I save the bottle and use it as a mixing bottle so I can mix my own colors. Yee. There we go. Nice. I like it. I like it. Let's make it a little cattywampus. There we go. So that's something that I like to do. You'll notice that this edge is thinner and this edge is thicker. And I like to do that to get sort of a mod look to it. Let's see. See what happened. Oh, I just got water here and water here. Let's get those off so they don't mess up my painting. So I'm just going over it to pick up some paint, just to build the center. And now I'm going around the edge to put a light coat around the edge. Nice. Okay, I bring it up so you can see. There you go. Right there. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. So over here, I'm going to use the orange again. And let's just put the orange straight from here. I could, if I don't have the markers, I could just use the orange paint and just dip a brush into the orange paint. So let me show you that. In just a second here. There. So let's say I didn't have the markers, but I had access to the paint. So I can just open this. I could actually squeeze some of it out into a well, like that, right? So if I had a little dish or a palette, I could just squeeze it out into the palette and pick it up right from the palette. Just going to put a drop of water on there and then paint it right in there, just like that. So if you have access to the bottles, you can use the bottles like that if you don't have markers. And what I find about the Pebeo Colorex paints, they're illustrators paints. They've been out for years. And illustrators use them because they're very bold and they're quite concentrated. So you can um, water them down very easily. So from here, you would put like 2 or 3 drops in your palette, and then you'd add a little bit of water. Yes, you saw an artist on Whatnot use the dropper as a pen. Yes. So if let me set these aside for a moment. So if I have, let's say, where is it? I have some of my other paper over here. Come on now. I just saw them a second ago. I'm looking for there they are. They got shoved up in there. So this is the watercolor, Jack Richardson. And so, yes, you can take the dropper like this, and you can go right from the dropper. And I'm just gently squeezing the top of the dropper in order to get a line. I can also take this ink and I can get one of my dip pens. Let me find one that's a good one. Eek. So this one is a dip pen that has a flat top to it. Can you see that? So Speedball C5. It's got a flat across the top. What I can do is I can use this ink to fill the pen. So I'm filling the reservoir of the pen right now with this ink. Juke. There we go. On the top. Okay, it's dripping, but that's okay. You can also fill a ruling pen with it. I can actually just dip this right in there. Dip, right in there. So you can use it with a dip pen. And let me get blotter paper. Come on, blotter paper. You can do it. Start. We're going to do it. No, we'll do it again. You have to fill the pen reservoir to start. And then you can use, yes. So then you can use these inks with a dip pen. Right? I can write with it. I'll just go. Oop. So you can use these inks in lots of different ways. So I'm just going to take this and dump it into my water like that. Clean it out. Very easy to clean out like that because they're quite fluid. But yes. Oh, what if we use some? Oh, interesting. Right? Eek. Little spray bottle of water. That's kind of fun. And then come back in with a paper towel and pick some of that up. Get a diffused background with that. Okay, you got me going off in a different direction, right, Mark? But yes, so that was using the dropper and also putting it in a dip pen. So there are a lot of different things that you can do with it, with the inks. Just bear in mind, these are dye inks, not pigment inks, right? So because they're dye-based inks, they were developed for illustrators. What does that mean? An illustrator is going to do their illustration, and then they're going to scan or photograph their illustration. And then the end product is the scanned or photographed image, not the artwork itself, because dye-based inks, and this is any dye-based inks, that's why you want to ask yourself the question when you buy art supplies, is that dye-based or is it pigment-based? And that's why, for instance, this Sennelier ink brush says right on it, pigment-based ink. So that's what you're looking for from an artist perspective. But if you're looking at it from the perspective of an illustrator, knock yourself out. Use pigment ink, use dye ink, use any of it because you're going to be scanning it or photographing it for reproduction. Okay. That's the difference there. So these colors from Pebeo, their ColorX line of their dye inks are super, super pigmented. They are absolutely gorgeous. And I've made bunches of artworks with them, but I did notice that certain colors, oh my gosh, in about 2 years' time, they fade. And that's because they're not designed to be permanent inks. They're designed to be illustrators' inks. Okay? I think you got that now. But they are ultimately fun to play with. That's for darn sure. Okay, let's go back to here. So this is where I used the marker first, but then I went over it with the paint on a brush. So you can see it's quite dense right there, right? Woo! It is super dense, super duper dense. Actually, I'm going to densify these just a little bit more. I'm going to put a little bit more color in here because they're not punchy enough for me. I want them to be a little more punchy. Let's use this one. Come in here. What you'll notice if you use your markers on wet paper, it draws some of the pigment out of the tip. And so sometimes you have to shake it a little bit to get the pigment to come back down into the tip once you put water on it. Okay, so I'm trying to get a little bit more of that line effect. There we go. Okay. That helped a little bit. There. But really my favorite is just use the marker. That's my favorite. Okay. What are we going to do with these little triangles over here? I think we need to repeat some blue. So this one is the forest green, and then that's the turquoise. Do I want to use the turquoise? Yeah, I want to use the turquoise here. You can actually put two colors with the markers. So here I've got the turquoise. What if I add a little bit of this green right over top of it? Now I've created a kind of an aqua color. Mm. And then let's see what happens when we hit it with a brush. Let me bring this up a little bit more so you can see it a little more clearly. I'm going to hit that with a brush. Oh, yeah. Now the colors are going to blend together. Beep. And I have a bit of an aqua. I sure do. I have an aqua instead of just a turquoise. Nice. Fabulous. Love it. So let me show you so that you can see the difference. So here it is straight from the turquoise marker. Here it is with the turquoise, and I added some of the forest green. So it's got more of an aqua color to it. Love that. All right, and then this one right here, that one I actually want a red. So this is the red. Just add the red right in here. Round off the corners. Don't want anything that's sharp with everything that we've been doing. Okay, I'm tapping off some of the water. And then let's come in here. Lovely. Nice. Okay. So of course that's filling the spaces. Now, I really like this shadow that I got from here. And you know, it's been a long time since we put this part in. Let's see if their claim of it being permanent is true. And I'm going to go ahead and add some more water in here and see what happens. Well, yes, the edges are softening. I'm getting a little bit of the color come up, which is fine. That's actually what I want, but not so permanent, which means if I had used the black, I would be getting a gray. You see that right there? So that is pulling out and giving us like a really soft edge to it, which is fine. It's fine. I like that. It's like adding some drop shadows in there, which is fun. It's fun to do that. So let's add another drop shadow in here. Pull it along. Ooh, look, 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 look. I missed. I missed. Do you see that? Sharp, sharp, sharp. No, we can't have sharp. Hold on. Hold on. No, mommy, nothing sharp, right? Oh my gosh. I cracked myself up. Hey, there we go. Got rid of that sharp corner. We're getting rid of this sharp corner. Ah, I feel better. Hallelujah. Right? We want to soften those edges right there. All right. And then if I bring this around, this is still really wet. So I'm going to get a lot more of a shadow right there, which is great. Love it. Love it. Soften those edges, soften them. Fantastic. Phew. Let's bring it here and here. That's cool. That's cool. I likey. So let me bring it up there. Do you see the softness there around the edges? I love that. And if you wanted to intensify it, of course, you could just add. So if I take fresh and I add a little bit of fresh along this line right here, even though you can't really see it because it's in the same place as the line I put earlier, it's now fresh paint or fresh ink. So now I can come in here and I can activate it, and I'll get a lot more color out of that softening on the edges there. Fabulous. Okay, that's fun. That's fun. I like doing that. Lovely. Oop, there's a little tiny edge right there. It's actually very sharp. And it's like, no, 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 no sharp edges. Too much water. Pick some up. There we go. Now it's more rounded. I like it. Okay. So that's going to create some subtlety around those edges. It's going to soften the edges for you. I like it. I like it a lot. And if I were using the black, then those edges would be gray instead of being this like light brown. Okay. So that's that project. Let's go back to the one that Mark V asked about, which was we were using the, which one did we use? The Sakura. We were using the Sakura Micron Graphic One here. Ooh, let me take a paper towel, put the paper towel on there and rub on the paper towel and see if anything comes up. Because we've left it over there a while, right? Yeah. Can you see the black come up on there? So it's definitely, it's not wanting to dry very well on the UFO paper. It's sitting on top. So I'm just, I got an impression of the last one that I had on there. Okay, let's add some watercolor to that. So yeah, it doesn't, okay, now my water's orange. You see that from what we were doing before? So that's why sometimes you need 3 waters. So I'm bringing my third clean water in now. And let's see if I add some color to this, what happens. So this is the UFO. Wow, look at that. This is still like super wet. You see that? Let me run over that so you can see. It is just running, 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 running. It's all gray all over there. Let me bring it up here. You see that? Hey, flower gazer, welcome in. Yeah. So it is definitely running. The color is running. You might have to leave it overnight in order to get it to become permanent, but let's put some watercolor on there and see what happens. Let's use some of this just for the fun of it. Interesting. The purple is spreading a lot, and it's actually blending together with the gray. That is so cool. I've done this before, created from a Russian therapist, I believe. Oh, I don't know if it was created from a Russian therapist, but yes, I love the neurographic art. It's a lot of fun. Okay, let's pick up some of that water and go for a little more pigment. Let's see what happens when we put more pigment in there. Woo! It is definitely exploding, which is what I love about the core watercolors. Interesting. Okay, well, I don't like this as well as on the paper. That is faux show. Let's put a little bit of this orange. Seems to be an orange night. Okay, so I'm putting it in here and I'm going to try not to touch the black. Leave a little bit of white around there. That's the beautiful thing about these brushes with that snappy tip where you can be a little more precise, right? So the paint is going on nicely on the Yupo. You know what I noticed about watercolor on Yupo though? When it dries, if you want to, if you move it, and say your fingernail gouges it or something or nicks it. Um, oh, hello over on YouTube. Welcome in, welcome in. Um, what will happen is it will literally gouge the paint. It's very sensitive, the watercolor on top of the Yupo. If you use alcohol ink, you don't have that problem. And the cool thing with alcohol ink is that you can also get alcohol ink in bottles, and they're usually little bottles with a squeezy top. And so you can squeeze that into your little wells in your palette, and you can pick it up with a brush. Now, the way that you clean your brush then is not with water, but with alcohol. I just use rubbing alcohol from the store, the grocery store, and then I will take the brushes afterwards. And after I've cleaned them in the alcohol, and I go to the sink and I use a brush soap. So mine is the General soap to clean the bristles after using alcohol ink on your brush. So you can use alcohol ink, and it's not the alcohol ink on the Yupo is not sensitive to bumps. And let me see if this is kind of dry over here. Let me see if I can, let me show you. So I just scratched it with my fingernail. Can you see the little scratch there? That's the problem with watercolor on Yupo. Yes, I think he's a professor and created this technique to help people resolve their issues through neural links. Yeah, oh, it's fabulous. Fantastic. I love neurographic art, and so that's why I thought I would share it with y'all. And if you weren't here earlier, Flower Gazer, it sounds like you just came in. We're at the end of our workshop. This is the other piece that we were working on, right? Yes, the lines represent the link, where they come together are like synapses within the brain where they connect, the nerves connect, and it just there's something very soothing about it. This is what we were doing earlier. If you weren't here earlier, Flower Gazer, I was using different types of black pens, brush pens, markers, and then different watercolor and watercolor markers to do the technique to show how it works. So since you did miss the workshop, of course, the replay will be under the live tab on my YouTube channel. And let me bring this back up here again. Interesting how when the color dries, the watercolor dries, it gets lighter. So that's usually the case. Usually watercolors will get lighter as they dry. But yes, I was able to scratch into that purple, and I've done that before on other pieces, and I was like, oh no. And then I go back in with a brush and try to sort of repair it. And the problem is, if you try to repair, you kind of have to do the whole area. You can't just repair that one little part because of the way the Yupo takes the paint. And oh, good. You'll watch the YouTube replay for sure. Excellent, excellent. Okay, so that is neurographic art, and it is so much fun. I think I'm going to end up, hopefully, it will work. What I like to do is if I have things like this that I really like, then I look at, can I turn it into an artist trade card, right? So what are the dimensions of an artist trade card? They are 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. So there is 2.5 inches. Let's see, 2.5 inches. Oh, it just fits on there, 2.5 inches. Let's look at 3.5 inches. So 3.5. Yeah, it'll fit on a 2.5 by 3.5. So I will be turning this fellow into an artist card. Isn't that fun? This one, I think also, where's 3.5? Yeah, 3.5. That's kind of cool. That one will also fit on a 3.5 by 2.5 trade card, right? So next week I will have trade cards for you from these, which is a fun thing. Now, what I'm going to do before I turn them into trade cards, because they are um, watercolors, I want to protect them. So if you want to protect your watercolor work, now I don't think it'll work here on the Yupo because the paint sits on top of the Yupo. But paper like this, where the paint soaks into the paper, you can protect it once it's dry by using Dorland's wax. Now I can do a spray. So this is the spray I like to use. It's the Krylon Kamar varnish. And it also allows reworking, but I believe it says right here, yes, oil, acrylic, or watercolor painting. And it's a museum quality varnish that you can spray, but you can also rework it. So allows easy rework. So if you wanted to lock in a layer and then put more on top, you can use this Kamar varnish. And I use this when I'm doing mixed media layers. Let's say I wanted to go back over top of this with acrylic paint, which is water-based, so it has the possibility of reactivating the paint, right? I will spray it with 2 or 3 coats of Kamar varnish first, and then I'll put the acrylic paint on top, and that will help to lock this in on the surface so it doesn't re-wet and come up with the other paint. And so that's Kamar varnish. Or I can also spray it 3 or 4 times, and then that should pretty much protect it, but I've found that it doesn't completely protect it. Hey, Nick, welcome in, welcome in. So what I like to use is this Dorland's wax medium, and it's clear. It looks white in here, but when you use it, it's clear. So let's get a fresh paper towel, not one that has watercolor all over it. And these are my favorite paper towels. They don't have a design impressed on them. They're smooth. Can you see that? So they're more like a cloth. This is the Viva cloth-like paper towels. And I always put a link to these at the end of my videos on YouTube. So here, I'm not going to do this one because I'll probably put something else around it, but this one is pretty much done. So I'm going to take some of this on this cloth-like paper towel. Now I also save old guest sheets, and yeah, you use these paper towels too. Yeah, they're awesome for your art. Um, so I also save old bed sheets or old pillowcases that are 100% cotton, and I cut those up and I use them as well. So here I'm gonna put this in here. Now what I do periodically is I look at this to see if any of the paint is coming up. If it is, I'm like, woo, okay, I gotta wait and let it dry some more, right? So here I'm just putting the wax on top, and I want to push the wax in there. Periodically, if I end up with color on here, I just move to another little section so I'm not spreading the color around. And let's do it down here. So a little circular motion, adding that in there. Oops, I've got a little on my finger. Cool. So this will seal this painting, and that way it'll become waterproof and it'll hold the design in place. Nice. So what I noticed that I didn't do before waxing it is I forgot to put my signature on it, but oh well, it's all right. It will be signed on the back. So I'm not that worried. Now what I want you to see how that is like gray. That means a little bit of that black was coming up. And I can see a little bit of it like right around the edges. So while the wax is still a little bit wet, I'm just going around the edges of the black, and I'm pulling away the wax that's on the surface right here. See the little bit of gray right there? So I'm just pulling that little bit away. That's why you want to watch your paper towel. So I'm pulling away the gray. So a little bit of gray in here maybe, a little bit of gray in here. There we go. And then some people do 2 coats. So you'll let that set for a while. I usually do it overnight, and then you can come back and put a second coat on. But for something like this, that's going to be an artist card, I don't bother to do a second coat. I just, in the morning, what I'll do, a couple hours later, you come and you buff it. So when you first put this on, Dorland's wax is just that, it's wax with a few other ingredients. So what'll happen is as it cures, as it soaks into the paper, it's going to get a little hazy, little matte. And so after it is fully cured, you're going to wipe over it, and that will get rid of that haziness that occurs as it cures. Okay, so then that will be an artist card, won't it? That's so fun. I can't wait to make that an artist card for next week. Woohoo! All right. Well, thank you for joining me for the workshop part of the show. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions whatsoever and you're on YouTube, of course, you can always put questions in the comments underneath the video, and I will check those out and answer your questions for you. And if you are on YouTube, if you could please give the video a like, that's a huge help. I appreciate it. The gouache, because like I said, if you want something that is more opaque, you're going to take some gouache, which was right here. So where did I put it? Here it is. So here's my studio gouache. And where is that? Oh, you know what I didn't do? I did not show you the shimmer either. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm going to show you those two things right now. But where is it? Where is it? Let's use this right here. So the gouache is opaque, and this one happens to be white. So if I want to get myself some pastel colors, I'm just going to put a little bit of gouache right here. And your gouache coming out of the tube usually is kind of sticky. So you have to add some water to it in order to get it to the consistency of a thick cream. Okay, that's how you want to use your gouache, like a thick cream. Now let's take another color here of the core watercolors, and I'm just going to grab it with a different brush. So let's say that I want to create a pastel version of this purple, because the purple is so strong, this dioxazine purple. So I'm going to put some of that see, the dioxazine purple almost looks black. It is so darn dark. So let me take my brush that has the white on it and go into it. And now what I've got is a beautiful opaque pastel color. So now I've got a pastel purple, and I can come in here. But gouache is an opaque watercolor, so it is still water soluble after it dries, just like your regular acrylics. I mean, I'm sorry, like your regular watercolors. It's still water soluble after it's dry. So here we go, and I'll bring it up in just a second and show you. But you get a nice opaque, and it's very pastel-y looking, right? You see the pastel purple effect there? And that I was able to tint my white from that very, very dense purple. And you can do that with any of your colors. You can do a magenta. Now it's going to make your water turn quite opaque, like fast, or have a lot of color in it really fast. But let's take like this magenta from Core. So I can just put a little bit of the magenta right there. Deek. Just a dot. Take some of the white here and mix it together with the magenta, and we're going to get an incredible pink, but it's going to be opaque instead of being transparent, which is fabulous. Sometimes you want an opaque color instead of a transparent color. And so that's what gouache will give you. This is the Pebeo Studio gouache. I bought this. They didn't give me this one. I bought this one. Okay, so here's our pink. So let me put it up here so you can see. Wow. Nice and opaque and very pastel-y. If I want it to be even lighter pink, I can grab some more white and even make it more pink. Just realize that your professional grade paints like the Core watercolors, the Daniel Smith watercolors, that it only takes a little bit and you're going to have to use a lot of white, which is why I always recommend that you get a big tube of white, big white. Now it is going to dry a little bit darker. So here is the lighter color with more white. See that? So I added the more white, and then I could go in and I could get even more white here. So there's a lot of range of colors that you can get here using the white wash. And that's why I say, just do yourself a favor. This is, they call it studio gouache, but it is still made with good quality pigments. It's artist grade pigment. So get this one. Just do yourself a favor, because look, it's 100 milliliters. The other ones, are like this, little guys, maybe 30 milliliters. You're going to do much better with this, the large size there. So I'm adding a whole bunch more white because this magenta is so pigmenting that I just had to, it was just a little tiny dab of the magenta. And I'm just having to add so much white to get it to be a light color because it's just so pigmenting your professional watercolors. Even some of your student grade watercolors, if you're taking it out of the tube, they're super de-duper pigmented. Okay, oh, there's so much color here. I hate to waste the color, but it is what it is. What I do is I keep, because these come 3 in a pack, these US Art Supply notebooks. So this is the 140 watercolor paper. They come in packs of 3. And I love that because this is wet and I can't just flip the page and keep working. But if I have another one like this, I can just grab this other one. Let's do some Sakura, which are the cherry blossoms, right? And cherry blossom leaves are kind of almost heart shaped. So let's just do that and then bring this one in here. Oh, it's a Sakura. Wait. And the thing is, you don't really waste the paint with the gouache. And the reason being that I can leave it. Okay, good. I will leave it. Yay. So I can spray this paint and rehydrate it later, this pink, and keep going. That's one of the beautiful things about working with a paint that has the binder of watercolor, because it is water soluble, right? So you can go back later and just add more water and keep going, which is why you can put your paint into palettes like this. Now, if I wanted to put something sparkly in here, I'm not going to use this brush right now because it's like full of all kinds of whiteness. So let me grab another brush like this and let's put a little sparkle on here. So this is my shimmer watercolors. Shimmer. They're amazing. They're amazing. The little ones I buy from a lady out in Texas, and these other bigger ones are available. I think it's called CMY. Um, or CSM or something like that is the company that makes them. But I'm going to show you how absolutely gorgeous these sparkle watercolors are. This is probably um, one of my favorite colors that I actually had to get a new one because I used up the other one. So you'll see why in just a second. This is peacock blue. So that is peacock blue. And I call these professional grade sparkle watercolors. So there are some watercolors that are more craft like, that are not as rich with sparkle pigment as the professional ones are. So these are highly pigmented. And let's just bring some more through here. And I want to show you when it's dry. When it dries, because the sparkle really shows up once it's dry. And then that's when you go, wow, what? Okay, let's pick a different color. One of my other favorite colors is this one called Tulip, because it has big chunks of glitter in it. So sometimes the artist that does this, she will add glitter as well as the mica. So the mica is what gives it the sparkle, but sometimes she'll just throw in some glitter and then that gives it a little extra zhuzh, little extra something, something. Okay, so this one is pink. And then the this purple one has blue. Ooh, raindrop is nice because the pigment in it is quite transparent, and then the mica really shows up when it's dry. Okay, there we go. The funny thing is, where the wax is here, it's resisting it. So I can't even paint it in the area where the wax is, which is good. That's the way it should be. Okay, so let me bring this up and move it around in the light so that you can see the sparkle. So there's that. Ooh, let me make sure it's in camera. Okay. So let me move it like that. Let's just see if you can see the sparkle of the blue, and the pink has little flecks in it. So as I move it, the pink also sparkles. Let's see if you can see that. Can you see how heavily sparkly the rain is, that dark one underneath? Can you see the sparkle in that one? It's so hard sometimes to get sparkle on camera, but when you see the piece in person, oh my gosh, it just blah, jumps out at you. So I do love, even you can go over top of where you've already painted and give it the accent of the sparkle. Like here's this blue. So I'm just, and the sparkle shows up really well against the black also. So let's say that I want to put a little bit of this apple pink on top of the pink one area here. Oh, nice. So that'll have a shine to it, a sparkle. Let's put something in that corner right there, one of these greens. So maybe the apple green is nice, but it is all sparkle. But the sparkles have color. It's not just mica, there's also pigment in there. There we go. So there's the candy apple green right there. And when that dries, it'll be all sparkly. Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. So that was, I promised to show the sparkle. So now I've shown the sparkle. Yeah. Woohoo. I hope you enjoyed that. Oh, this just makes me so happy. That sparkle. Let me hold it up one more time. See if you're able to, as I move it around, if you can see the incredible shine of this dark right here in the light. Yeah, you can catch a little bit of it there. A little bit of it. Oh, makes me so happy. My mind is calmed from the the neurographic um aspect of what we're doing, and then the sparkle is just the cherry on top, right?